Marcus Webb had been flying out of Callaway International for 11 years, and in 11 years he had never once paid close attention to who else was standing at the door of the Meridian Crown Lounge. You cleared the security checkpoint. You walked the long corridor past the newsstand. You showed your card to whoever was working the entrance, and you went inside. It was transactional. It was unremarkable. He had never had occasion to think otherwise. He was thinking otherwise now. The woman standing at the door was not making a scene. That was the first thing he noticed. The first thing that made him slow his stride. She was perhaps 50, trim and unhurried in a charcoal suit, a leather portfolio under one arm, carry-on rolling neatly behind her. She had handed her priority access card to the attendant, a young man whose name tag read Derek, with the steady confidence of someone who had done so 100 times. Derek had taken the card, looked at it, and set it face down on his podium with the careful deliberateness of a man who had already made up his mind. This card, Derek said not unkindly, may have been issued to a corporate account. You'd need the primary cardholder to be present or a letter of authorization. The woman looked at him. It was issued to me, she said. Voice was calm and even, the kind of voice that didn't need volume to carry. I understand, but I'm not seeing your name in the verified member database. And without that confirmation. What is your verification procedure? She asked. I'd like to understand the specific step. It was a precise question, not an accusation, not an escalation, a procedural inquiry, the kind a person asks when they intend to follow the process wherever it leads. Derek blinked, shifted his weight. I would need to call our membership desk and have them run the card number against the master list. Then I'd encourage you to do that, she said simply. Marcus had reached the entrance, by then, card already in hand. He stopped a step back from the podium, watching. He told himself later that he had stopped because there was no room to pass, which was technically true. He did not examine the rest of it too carefully. Not yet. Derek made the call. It lasted 40 seconds. The membership desk confirmed the card was valid, verified, and in good standing. Derek thanked them and hung up. There was a brief, effortful pause. Apologize for the wait, he said, and moved to step back from the podium. One moment, the woman said. Her voice had not changed. I'd also like you to note, for your own awareness, that my name is on this card. She held it up, face forward, and read it aloud. The Honorable Camille Osi. She let that sit for exactly 1 second, then said, I'd like to see the lounge director, please. Derek's colleague, a young woman named Priya, who had been pretending to organize pamphlets 2 feet away, turned around. Marcus Webb, who had a 9:40 flight to Portland and nowhere particular to be for the next 40 minutes, did not move. The lounge director was a man in his early 40s named Garrett Finch. He came out from the back corridor with the brisk, accommodating stride of someone summoned to manage a minor complaint. He had his apologetic smile assembled before he reached the podium. It changed when he saw her. Not dramatically, not in the way you'd see in a film, with a sharp intake of breath, or a color draining. It changed the way a person's face changes when the mind performs a rapid, private calculation and returns a result that is not what it expected. Garrett Finch looked at Camille Osi, and then he looked at the name on the card she was still holding, and something behind his eyes went very quiet. Your Honor, said. Derek looked at Finch. Finch was not looking at Derek. Priya, who had given up all pretense of organizing pamphlets, was watching Finch with the particular stillness of a junior employee who has just understood that the situation is larger than it appeared. 2 or 3 travelers who had arrived behind Marcus, a man in a fleece vest, a woman pulling a hard-sided rolling case, had gone quiet in the way that a room goes quiet when the ordinary transaction at the front of a line is no longer ordinary. I need to make a call, Finch said to her. Not as an excuse but as an explanation, the way you tell someone something they are entitled to know. Forgive me. One moment. The call he made was not to the membership desk. It was to the Airline's Government Staff Affairs office. 3 terminals over. A vice president named Claudia Mears had been preparing for a different kind of Tuesday. Marcus Webb heard the name mentioned. Heard Finch say, with impressive economy of words, she is standing at the Meridian Crown entrance, and watched Claudia Mears arrive in under 4 minutes. Was faster than the people mover should have allowed. Claudia was direct. Judge, "Os, I am so deeply sorry. Please come in." What Claudia Mears understood, and what Derek Holt was only now beginning to piece together, was something the federal court's public docket had made plain for months. The Honorable Camille Osei, circuit judge for the Tufik Federal District, was presiding over the operating certificate renewal proceeding for the very airline whose lounge she had just been turned away from. Proceeding was active. The evidentiary hearings were scheduled for the following Tuesday. The judge who would rule on whether the airline continued to fly its full domestic route network. That judge had been standing at this door for the past 6 minutes being told her card might belong to someone else. There was no drama in how Judge Osei entered the lounge. She thanked Claudia Mears, declined the offer of a private suite, and walked to a seat by the window. She set her portfolio on the table, opened her laptop, and returned to whatever she had been doing before the morning took its detour. Marcus Webb took a chair 2 rows over and tried to do the same thing. He found he could not. He had almost walked past her. He had stood 1 step back from that podium and weighed, with the precise unconscious arithmetic of a man who has never had to do it the hard way, whether what he was watching was his business. He had a flight. He had a client presentation. He had a carry-on that needed to be stowed before the overhead bins filled. He had assembled, without quite meaning to, a short and adequate list of reasons to keep walking, and he had not acted on it, but only barely, and only because she had not needed him. That was the thing that stayed with him. She had not needed him. She had known exactly what question to ask. She had produced exactly the right credential, at exactly the right moment, with the placid efficiency of a person who has learned, over many years, carry the evidence of who she is somewhere accessible. She had not raised her voice. She had not looked to the room for support. She had done it herself, with a composure so complete that it looked, from a step back, like it cost her nothing. And Marcus Webb, who was not a man given to examining his own discomfort, sat with the knowledge that it probably had, and that she had simply refused to let it show. Derek Holt was removed from the front-of-house position before the morning was over. He was not fired, not that day, but reassigned to back-office work while a formal review was conducted. Garrett Finch, to his credit, did not wait to be asked. He drafted a written apology to Judge Osei before she boarded her flight, on lounge letterhead, with specific acknowledgement of the procedural failure and the corrective steps already taken. The airline's legal compliance team received a logged incident report by noon. The Meridian Crown updated its entry protocol the following week. Every priority access card to be scanned, not inspected, before a query is raised. The verification running in 2 seconds, invisible, before the attendant has a word to say. Judge Osei's operating certificate proceeding continued on schedule the following Tuesday. The public record does not note what she thought about the week that preceded it. Marcus Webb made his 9:40 to Portland. He gave his client presentation. He did a reasonable job. On the flight back, somewhere over the mountains, he wrote a short email to his firm's office manager about updating the company travel policy. Something about ensuring every colleague, every level of seniority, received documentation confirming their lounge access before they arrived at a door, and had to prove it. It was a small thing. He was aware of that. He knew it did not balance what she had stood at that door and endured with a composure he was not sure he could have matched. But it was the thing he could do from where he stood, in the life he had, on the Tuesday that had just changed the way he moved through an airport. He sent it anyway.